Welcome back to CodeWithKamira. Today we are going to look at clean data model. You realize that Flutter expects a certain data object or data model, but the API returns JSON response. So if the API data and data in that are not compatible, then communication between the front end and the back end will be a problem. So that means there is need to convert to an understandable structure of your data. And also, it's not a matter of having the data in place, but is it clean enough? Does it show professionalism? Does it prove that you really understand what you do? For example, if you have this API that gives you a list of products. From here, you can see that we are getting back a JSON object, and this JSON object has properties, but one of the properties of interest is the products property, this one, which contains a list of products, okay? So you have data like this. Now, someone would say, how do I start? So what you do for any given response, depending on the tool you are having, but for me, I would just copy this response and maybe Google, okay? Feel free to use resources that are available. For example, you would say JSON because it is JSON to that because you are writing that code, yeah, in Flutter. So you choose maybe the first one. This will convert your JSON. You paste your JSON here and you click generate, okay? Now you get this as your object. However, it is still okay for you to copy this, okay? Now I could say, let me paste it in product here, okay? But I'm interested in products somewhere. Yeah, I do that, okay? I do this, all right? And here I do this, okay? List of type product, okay? You could say that this is how it should be, the fromJson. Okay, so to someone who doesn't mind about clean code, just go ahead to use this. If you look at this file, you realize that it has so many models or so many classes. There's this class, there's this class, the products class, the reviews class, meta class. So you find that because you just generated from here using the tools, which is okay, you paste here, you'll still use it well and you'll get the results. But if I were the one to review your code, I would just assume you did for the sake of having the task done. So we need to separate all these classes into different models. That's one. Secondly, you see that you are manually writing the fromJson of each model and to JSON. So that means for a particular class, you have all these, yet you do auto-generate these to JSON and from JSON so that your class is so brief. So let's begin. Let's create a dat file. We call it products response. Okay, this is class products response. It holds the response, okay, from the API. Let's come here. We copy all these and paste it. Okay, ignore that. Let's leave it as is. Put it there. Then leave this in product to JSON. Cut all this. Still put it in here. Okay, we have this class to handle. So you see, okay, let's import this. Okay, So you have this class product, but this is still too huge a class. You see that you've written manually this to JSON, all this, and that means in case of any change, you will need to come back here and look for where to modify. The same to from JSON. You can write to JSON and from JSON, but with files being auto-generated after installing the various dependencies as we did in the beginning of our course. Now let's try to write from JSON. So we can say product, okay, dot from JSON, okay. So the JSON is a map of type. It is the keys of string and the value is dynamic. It can be any data. So this is our JSON. And so you return, so meaning that product.fromJSON, wherever it will be called, it will return to us. We are telling it this, that generate for us a file in this name, product from JSON. And the value is this JSON. Okay, let's terminate. Now we write to JSON, this to JSON. We say map of type where key is a string, but the data itself is dynamic. So to JSON, and should return to us product to JSON, this. So we don't need these. So we have a brief file. Now we need to point where we want the file to be generated. So this file is going to be generated in the same directory. Okay, so we copy this path, the path of the parent or the file we are having, and we say path this, okay, but let it have .g for generated, okay. Then still this is not enough. We need to fix this. String dynamic to JSON. Okay, and then put this, sorry. Yeah, now it's fine. So here we need to annotate with at JSON serializable. Okay. So our class is as brief as this. We need to do the same for the rest, then we shall build later. Let's go in here in the response. We name it product response. So we are going to import this. Now we have the dimensions class. Let's also move it. Okay, we create a model still here. That file, dimensions, dimension. We paste this here. Let's do the same. We write that to JSON and from JSON. So from JSON is going to be you return auto-generated file and that is dimension from JSON. Now to JSON is going to be, you return to us auto-generated file dimension to JSON. This we need to annotate with at JSON serializable. Also to specify the path where the file should be put. Copy and say path, but put .g. Product, it's not dimensions, it's dimension. Should read singular, not plural. It should read dimension, not dimensions, but mind about the key itself, because this key is the one that the API is giving you. So dimension, did I call it dimensions? Check. All right, it's dimension. Should be dimension. Yes. So in the product should be dimension. All right. Fine. Let's go back the response. We have reviews. We have reviews. Okay. For reviews, still in the model, you call it review, not reviews, review as a single class. And we paste this, should be review. Okay. Then we go wherever it is used. So in the list is type reviews. We make it review, singular. We import. However, the key is reviews, okay? Because this is what the API is giving us. Okay, so we go to review. Now, we don't need this. So we do this, that return to us an auto-generated file named review from JSON, and it should have the JSON. Also here, we say, let's do this, terminate. Okay. Also here, we tell it to return to us auto-generated file in the position, in the name, review to JSON. The JSON is this. So we put at JSON serializable, but then the review is in which location, then we copy, we say part this .g. Okay. Let's go back to the response. So this is the response. Okay. Have meta. We create that file. We call it meta. We can call it product meta. Though we can call it, and you can call it anything, but I wanted to change this name so that you don't cram it, that it should always be the name you generated from your tool. So this is product meta. This is product meta. This is product meta. Okay. We look for where it is used. Here, meta. So you call it product meta. But the key is meta. Take note so that you don't change it. So the product meta, we do the same. We say this one return to us auto-generated file named product meta JSON and should have this JSON. Even here, return to us auto-generated file named product meta from JSON, pass the JSON. Okay, now still we do the same at JSON serializable and we look for product meta here, copy, separate this .g. Okay. All right, now there is a command we are meant to run and auto-generate for us because we put those dependencies already inside this pub/spec.yaml. Okay, we have builder runner, then we have JSON serializable, retrofit generator. Those are going to play a role. So now we need to issue a command to auto-generate, and that command is this. It is that pub run build runner watch -- delete -- conflicting outputs. Let's see. So you see we have product.g, an auto-generated file. We have it here. So instead of having all this to JSON and from JSON in a single file, you just use auto-generation. So let's see why this has some errors. Let's see. Actually, in all of them, we have the same issue. Dimension from JSON. So it means that on our to JSON, we are missing factory. So we say factory. We are missing factory keyword. Now it is fine. Product, we are missing factory keyword. Error gone. Product meta, we are missing factory keyword. Error gone. Review, we are missing factory keyword. So everything is clean now. Let's see. Okay. So you realize that now you have a very clean code. This is your focus. The to JSON and from JSON, for example, that are here, shouldn't bother you. okay, because this file is going to be auto-generated. So now we realize that we have dimension, so brief, a class, and we have product, also brief, a class. So the model is clean. Still on the models, there is something I need to talk about. Take a situation whereby the data field returned to you is not what you would prefer to use. Okay, assuming you have SKU returned to you from the backend, but some developers may not understand what exactly it is. Okay, so what do? You may decide to give it a name different from the one in the backend, but you have to tell that this one at JSON key, this key, okay, SKU, this is name, this key SKU from backend is what I'm calling stock keeping unit. So that means you, on your front side, you will be talking about stock keeping unit, but the backend is going to keep in mind of its SKU. So this is stock keeping unit. Let's try to auto-generate. Okay, you see SKU here. Yes, so now we have stock keeping unit, but in the JSON way, it is SKU. Okay. Now, also, still here, you may want some model. For example, you are saving a product, but you're not meant to send the ID. Okay. However, in fetching the product, you need the ID. So you may want to utilize the same model, but balance in the required fields. What do we do here? For example, ID, we say JSON key. Okay. Now, this key ID, we don't want it to be included when we are sending to the backend, meaning when we are doing it to JSON. So there is what we would call include to JSON. You say false. So that means when you save a product, the ID field will not be sent. However, when you are getting, meaning from JSON, you need that ID. That's why it remains here. And we said include it to JSON false. Still, there are situations whereby you have null values. Okay? You want, because the intention here is to have a clean model. You have null values and you don't need to send them to backend, or you don't even need to receive them. So you can either specify on a particular field, but assuming there are 10 nullable values and you don't need them when they are null, then that is too much work. So what you do, you can say JSON serializable here, include if null, false. Okay, you're telling that, so the two should not confuse us. By that, I'm meaning the programming language in Flutter. So you are telling that when you see this model with a nullable field, do not include it, okay? So there are so many things we can do in JSON key. We have default value, nullable, ignore. So include from JSON, include to if null. Okay, so now we have default value. For example, you could have this field rating and say at JSON key, and maybe the default value should be 2.0. So you see, this means you've set the rating to 2.0. So when you're saving this product, the rating, if not passed, right? Meaning if it's null, it will instead send a 2.0. Understanding your data model is very key. Do not forget to subscribe to Code with Kamira, as we are going to learn concepts day by day. We have to understand programming. We have to be different from others in the way we do things. Thank you for watching. Bye bye. Code with Kamira.